I feel like the last couple of years you've like purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what? Well, but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, this is a blue state and that's a red state.
Yeah. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along. As these guys are rolling back the clock.
Bill Maher didn't hold back during his fiery sit-down with Gavin Newsom on Real Time with Bill Maher. And honestly, I didn't see it coming. Sure, Maher's been taking shots at the woke crowd lately, but I didn't expect him to go after Newsom like this. He backed Gavin into a corner, forcing him to squirm his way out, and let me tell you, it was a battle. So, what went down? Who came out on top in this war of words? Stick around, because this is about to get interesting.
The governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties.
While it's still only 6% contained, and he did this little dance.
Alright, you have to see this clip, where you can practically hear the audience's jaws drop as Bill Maher fires off rapid-fire questions, leaving Newsom scrambling. His dodging skills were on full display, but trust me, Maher wasn't letting him off easy.
You'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but now this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that? If you could win look at the swing states. There's only 8 of them.
Gavin Newsom tries to defend himself here, but let's be real, it doesn't go well. He stumbles, he dodges, and in the end, he just embarrasses himself.
Well, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of the state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language. You're not able to communicate. And you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
It's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get
it. So you think that's silly? You think that's a silly thing that we too much government?
If you were paying close attention, you probably heard the audience gasp when Maher hit Newsom with that question. Nobody expected him to call out that ridiculous state legislation so bluntly. You could see the shock on Gavin's face, hear the slight stutter in his voice as he scrambled for a response. Maher had him cornered, like a cat toying with a very nervous mouse. But, of course, like any seasoned politician, Newsom found an escape route and took it without hesitation. Let's break down his response, and I'll give you my take.
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that. And they were the ones making a case for that. They were making us, they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they've supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind. But I get how those things are no weapon.
Maher starts off with a bit of praise, but don't be fooled, it's a setup. Newsom knows something's coming, and you can tell by the way he shifts in his chair. The audience feels it too. Then boom. Gavin walks right into a rhetorical buzzsaw. He tries to recover, but Maher had him beat before he even saw it coming. Intro 6. Another masterstroke from Maher. For years, California officials have been warning about water shortages, blaming the rivers, the drought, everything but the real issue. And then, surprise. Investigations revealed that a staggering 80% of the state's water was being drained by almonds.
All right, so one, I got you here because I live here and I'm not going anywhere. So I just want to make this a better state like everybody else. And good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome.
That
was my legislative priority.
Yep. Almonds. They use as much water as all household indoor use combined and only contribute a measly 2% to the economy. So, Maher's question to Newsom was simple. What's he actually doing about it? Watch as Gavin dodges like he's auditioning for Dancing with the Stars.
Still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff. Yeah. And then whenever I read 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds. Right. No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of almonds.
I'm well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Yeah. Come on, man. Take on big almonds.
Take on big almonds.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
Did you catch that word salad? Because I sure didn't. The question was simple. What's Newsom actually doing about the almond water crisis? But instead of a straight answer, he did what politicians do best, sidestep the real issue. Instead of addressing the fact that 80% of California's water is being drained by almond farming, contributing a whopping 2% to the economy, Newsom went off on a tangent about rainwater storage and vague water management plans. Yada, yada, yada. This is the playbook of woke politics. Never actually fix the problem, just throw out a bunch of buzzwords and hope no one notices the lack of substance. And if you look closely, you can see Bill Maher cracking up, because he knows exactly what's happening. But give credit where it's due. Maher wasn't about to let Newsom off the hook. That's why I respect him. He's one of the few who dares to call out the left's hypocrisy from within their own camp. And if this interview proved anything, it's that the woke mob will push whatever narrative benefits them, dodge accountability, and pat themselves on the back for their so-called progress. But the second you press them for logic, it all falls apart, like a gluten-free cookie at a Berkeley coffee shop.
Extreme years with these atmospheric rivers. Wets are getting a lot wetter, dry's drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalinization plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta Conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California and address the permitting quagmires that you rightfully pointed out.
You've got to give Newsom credit. He's great at dodging tough questions. That's exactly why he carefully avoids platforms that might actually make him answer them. Can't have that, right? Maher's sarcasm says it all. He sees Newsom for what he is, just another polished charlatan, all style, no substance. Or maybe he's one of those politicians who can talk for hours without actually saying anything. The kind who spins so much nonsense, he might even start believing it himself. But here's the thing. Maher isn't buying it. And neither should we. And if you think this was bad, just wait until you hear what Newsom says next.
I'm telling you, you're good at this job. Okay.
And here we go again, another woke sermon straight from the progressive gospel. But this time, Newsom managed to sum up everything wrong with woke culture in under a minute. Impressive. He even went as far as calling people who resist his ideology shapeshifters, and accusing them of trying to drag America back to the 1960s. Because, of course, in the minds of the woke mob, questioning their agenda means you must be a time-traveling bigot. These are the same people who push biological men into women's sports, force them into the same bathrooms, and gaslight anyone who dares to question it. And if that wasn't enough, they push policies that prioritize race over merit in schools and workplaces. Like qualifications and skill are suddenly outdated concepts. And don't even get me started on their most radical crusade, pushing kids into gender transitions. They're telling children who can't even decide what to eat for lunch that they're mature enough to make irreversible medical decisions. Parents who object? Labeled as intolerant. Or worse, dangerous. This isn't about progress, it's about control. And Newsom, like the rest of the woke elite, is leading the charge. But honestly, I'm not surprised. This is the same guy who had the audacity to claim speculators were somehow responsible while California was literally burning. Even Joe Rogan couldn't hide his shock when he heard that one.
I feel like the last couple of years you've like purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what?
Well,
but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, oh, this is a blue state and that's a red state. And I don't want to live in that country. I like Florida.
I'm with you. And by the way, I like Florida as well. I like all these states. I completely agree. I don't want to have a state of mind that's a constant fight or flight. We've gone through so much. We've been polarized and traumatized. It's been a tough 5-6 years across the globe, not just in this country. That said, I'm not going to sit back and watch. You made the point just a moment ago in your monologue. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along, as these guys are rolling back the clock, or you can stand tall and assert yourself. And the reason I started to go into those red states, the reason I started to take on DeSantis, and the reason I started doing ads in these red states is I didn't feel my party was doing enough. It was CRT one year, and then it's ESG, and it's DEI, anything with 3 letters. These guys keep coming, and they're shapeshifting.
So when I tell you that these woke politicians only look out for themselves, believe me, they preach compassion, equity, and justice. But the second there's money to be made, all that virtue signaling vanishes. While everyday Californians were desperately trying to save their homes from wildfires, what was Newsom focused on? Not relief efforts. Not policy changes. Nope, he was too busy figuring out how to line his own pockets. This is the same guy who locked down businesses while secretly dining at fancy restaurants. The same guy who lectures about climate change while jetting around in private planes. And yet, the woke mob still props him up as some kind of progressive savior. Why? Because they don't actually care about results. They care about power and control. It's the same story with every woke politician. They sell you a utopia while making sure they stay on top, untouched by the chaos they create. Newsom and his crew won't suffer from their policies.
The governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties.
While it's still only 6% contained. And he did this little dance like, I've been talking with the governor of Hawaii about what to do. We've got some ideas. A speculator, we're going to have some meetings.
And the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward. And we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
It's so creepy.
You will. And as long as they keep cashing in, they'll never stop. At the end of the day, the woke left's hypocrisy knows no bounds. They preach equality while pushing division, claim to protect women while erasing them, and scream about democracy while silencing dissent. Newsom is just another polished fraud, dodging accountability while profiting from the chaos. And the worst part? The woke mob eats it up. Because for them, it's never about truth, it's about control. And with that, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed the heat we brought, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.